right, so let's go down lower to the hips. So we're gonna bring the feet out wide and hands back behind us. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is just let the knees go side to side at their own pace. So if you're going and the pelvis is lifting and rolling off, you can do a little less. So we're just gonna look at the hip joints for now and where those go, where one is internally rotated, the other's externally rotated. Okay, and then we pause at center. Okay, so the hands are here to kind of push you out and away with that upper body. But if that feels like a lot on the wrist, you can kind of settle into where the shoulders create this little nook for the head. Okay, so you decide. So one leg, the knee is going to start to come in towards the center, and we kind of hold there. So wherever it goes, good. We pause. Hi, I didn't even see you back there. And then we'll do the other side. Okay, now let's go back to the first side. So do it passive first, where it just drapes in wherever it drapes in. So that's one. And then the second part's going to be a little bit more active, where think about the whole inner chain of the leg is going to pull the leg down to whatever degree it wants to go. So now it's more actively pulling. Yes, we'll let that go. So other side, so it drapes in wherever it lands. So this is pure hip joint action here. Now the whole inner chain of that leg is going to try to pull and bring that leg wherever it goes. Okay, so now it's an active range of internal rotation. And then we let that go. Okay, so let's let the legs just kind of go in and out. And now let's just do one side. And we sometimes do this when we're on our backs, where we do the open and closed with the foot flat. Let's do the other side, just a little open and closed. So it's like you're swinging it out and freeing everything up. Good. So now we're going to take those hands that are back there and walk them forward and see if you can hold yourself more upright over those legs. Perfect. And then we bring the arms forward. So now it's all this reach to kind of hold the torso upright. So this is not fun at all. We're not going to do it for too long, but it's really good for engaging and isolating the hips. Okay, so one knee is going to start to come in. Once it goes to wherever it can go, take the other leg, bring it out and open. Now we're still facing forward. Okay, now turn to that side and let the knee come down. And then we let the whole body come down. Yes. Then we'll lift up. Okay, so keeping the torso in that side, we're going to lift the back leg up. Then the other leg follows, and we start to swing the torso back to center. So there's a lot of abdominals to hold ourselves upright. Now let's go to the other side. So we'll do step at a time. The one leg starts to come in, the other leg starts to go out. When it's found its capacity where there's nowhere left to go, take the torso around, and then we can lower the torso down. Let's come back up. So now the torso is still facing that leg. The back leg is going to try to lift. So this is pure isolation of hip joint. Yep. As soon as that's found its way, start to take the torso forward. Then the other leg follows. Good. And we'll go one more time each side. I told you it wasn't going to be fun. And we start to come down. We'll come back up. If it was 7:45, we would just be. So the back leg first tries to lift. Once that has as far as it can go, still keep the other leg down, but turn the torso and you're still working on that one leg. Okay, then the other leg follows and we're back at center. Okay, let's go back to the other side. This is the last side. We swing over, tons of abdominals here to hold ourselves up. We go forward over that leg, back up, and then we come back to center. So one leg starts, then the torso, other leg follows. All right, let's come all the way back and down. And we'll just hold here in neutral. Take some breaths. Okay, so let's try some of these things laying down where you don't have to worry about that upright position with the torso. So let's bring the feet wide. We do this a lot. Bring the knees in together. So pelvis is out of the equation. So we're not really recruiting our lumbar spine. Then the joints of the hips come in. So do it passive first. Then let's actively pull the thighs together, squeeze, let it relax. So then they kind of come out to the degree that they're more passively at. Then we squeeze and we let it relax. And one more, we squeeze. Yes. And we let it relax. Okay, let's take a big breath. Let's bring the feet back to hip distance apart. Now, let's try to keep that pelvis just as flat as it is and swing the knees side to side, but swing them only to the degree that you feel like the pelvis can stay steady. So this would only be hip joints as we go side to side. So here again, the abdominals have to hold us somewhat flat to not recruit the pelvis. So it's just that a lot of times we recruit the pelvis so much that it merges with all leg movements and lower back movements. And so we're just giving a little isolation here. Okay, now swing where the pelvis kind of peels up. So just so you can feel the difference. So we swing side to side, more of that windshield wiper. So it just puts the hip joints on a better map in the brain. Now let's find our way back to center and bring the legs up towards the ceiling. And all you're gonna do here is just swing the legs a little bit over to one side and a little bit over to the other side. So it's so small that it's almost like you're massaging the sacrum or lumbar spine, depending on what position the legs are in. And if you don't love the legs straight, just bend the knees and you can do the same thing. And we'll come back to center. We'll bend the knees, take the hands right at the thighs, and let's roll back up. Okay. And then we're going to put our legs in 90-degree angles. So the front leg is going to be in a 90-degree angle and the back leg is in a 90-degree angle. So sometimes what happens is everything curls in and is forward, and we're going to try and swing it open so it's more straight out from the hip. And then the back leg, same thing, is more straight out from the hip than being too far forward. Okay? So once you're there, let's lean towards that front leg, bring the arm down. Okay, so we're gonna try and pick up this whole leg, but let's start with just the foot first. So the foot starts to try to come up and down. Now, it may not come up at all and it may cramp the side of the hip if it's not used to it. So we're just gonna try and get a little lift, a little lower. Yep. What? The back. Sorry, I probably didn't say, did I?
Well, I can see it.
Okay, two more. Yep, so this is promoting the rotation. Okay, cool. Now let's try and lift the whole leg. So it just tries to hover, exactly, bring it back down. Good, it tries to hover. So it's almost like you're bringing in that strength right to the side of the hip. Good, two more. Excellent. Now, can the foot stay down and can the knee lift up? Yes. And we're just going to go in and out of this. Beautiful. What?
You take joy and it looks like our pain.
No, it looks like everyone's doing a great job. I'm proud. Two more. So let's now come all the way to upright. Okay. We're going to again try to lift this back foot, but it's most likely not going to lift. So that's okay. When you start to try to lift it, you're going to feel the engagement travel up the leg, and that's all we want. So before we were taking weight out of it, Now we're gonna weight it down and we're just gonna try lifting that foot. See what happens, let it go. Yep, back foot. The knee can stay down, actually, if you want. You what?
My other one wants to help.
Yeah, exactly. And isn't it interesting? Because you can see like what happens where everything tries to merge, or can it isolate itself? So just one more. Yeah, okay. So let's let that go. So if we walked sideways, we would be very strong and robust on the side of our hips, but we don't. So we just have to do some things to counteract the nature of, linear movement in our lives. Okay, so we still have the other side. It's exciting. Okay, so 90-degree angles with the legs. So that means that the front one, instead of being way out, has to come in where it's from the hip joint to the knee is like a line. And then the same thing, the back leg tries to come back where there's a line. Okay, so let's lean over towards that front leg. So we unweight that leg a little bit, and just the back foot, we're trying to lift and lower. Exactly. So we've taken a lot of weight out of it. So hopefully it has some freedom to lift. Awesome. So 2 more. Your foot's like, ah, ah. It's true. It's so, but it's coming. It's going, it's lifting up. Good. Now we're going to try and lift this whole piece. So if you think about this as like a parallel piece to the floor, you're actually trying to just give it a little bit of height. So it drives that work right into the side of the hip. Yep. Good. So one more. Nice. So everybody's really strong there. Okay. So we'll come back up. So that's good because that's something you wouldn't need to practice. Obviously, you're doing something right. Oh, the knee. Did I do that laying down? All right, we have to come back down. Carol told me I forgot something. Thank you. Now just the knee lifts up and down. I'll carry you. Well, I'll have you on my back. Good. Now we come up. Okay, so just this centered position is really tough because if you think about it, if the hips are not rolling the way they need to, it's almost like you're sitting on that one side. So just the act of eventually getting more centered is, takes some time. So once you're there, you're going to try to lift that back foot and it may not go anywhere, but let's just see. Okay, so we try to give it a little lift, a little lower. So now you're completely weighted, so it's much harder. Good. One more. Yeah, nice job. All right, let's let that go. Let's bring the legs forward. Shake it out. And then let the legs roll in and out. So this is more of a neutral position. And you can roll even faster. Good job. All right, so we're gonna come onto hands and knees into tabletop posture. And actually, let's just go right back to child's pose as a way to just settle in a neutral position. One more breath. And then we'll come back up and we'll come to table. Okay, so in table here, let's spread the fingers wide and push into the upper body so that it's pretty locked here. Okay, so shoulder blades are left to right and head is right aligned with the spine. So that stays where it is. And then the lower body, you're going to pick up the left knee just barely off the floor. So if the imprint was in one position, you're just lifting right off that imprint. Yes. Then this angle of the leg, right? It's like a 90-degree angle. You're going to keep it there and start to swing up back behind you. And again, just right from the hip joint into hip extension. So if you go too far, pelvis gets involved. So we're trying to hold that. And it's like if you stamped the foot up towards the ceiling, it's that feeling. So check that the weight is not shifted all the way over to that right side. We're still centered. Keep pressing the foot like you're stamping it towards the ceiling. Hopefully you feel hamstrings, gluteals here. That's how you know you haven't risen further up. And then we let that go. So let's do the other side. So the right knee just lifts, that little imprint. So you have this shape, right? From the foot to the knee and from the knee up to the hip. We hold that and then we start to swing up. So you're finding your angle here. Beautiful. And let's let that go. Now let's do it straight. Left leg straightens back behind. And let's take the pelvis that might be drawn forward, pull it up, and then stretch that leg up towards the ceiling. Yes. Check that you're centered. So if the weight's all falling towards that right hip, right knee, you want to come centered, let the abdominals work with it too. Bring that leg down. Let's do the other side. Right leg extends back and then it starts to lift. Beautiful. So we lengthen that leg in a way that it's like you're distributing the weight nicely. And then we come into hip extension. And then we let that go. So let's come into our child's pose. Take some breaths. So we will come forward again. Let's take the feet, swing them open. And then we bring them in. We'll do that again. We swing them open. And they come in. Now, the next time they swing open, just hold them there. And you're going to start to go a little back, right? Like you're coming into child's pose and then start to come forward. So you only go as far back as you can handle with the body. So we're just doing this as a movement-based position. So the pelvis stays where it is. The hip joint is anchored in. Good. We have one more. And if you want, you could settle back there. And then we come forward again. Nice. Let's come on to our forearms this time. Okay, so the arms are going to pull against one another. So it's like you're pulling them towards the center line. And then can we take the pelvis now and isolate where we draw it forward and it rolls back. So think of this as like cat-cow, but just that lumbar spine and pelvis. So the upper body doesn't move at all. And one more in each direction. And the next time it's curled under, let's draw back to that child's pose. Okay, good. So we're going to come back to table. And we're going to do some similar things here, just a little different. So the left knee just barely comes off the floor. So here we have to find the anchor in the arms and the abdominals. Then that leg starts to come up towards the ceiling. And think of it as like pushing your foot up. Then the knee is going to swing open. So it stays parallel to the floor instead of rolling the hip and pelvis. So it's like the thigh is parallel. Yes. Okay. And the foot still stays above the knee. And then notice if you're pushing your weight towards the right, try to center that, let it go. Okay, so that's the harder version. So we'll do this other side. So we pick up the right knee just barely. So that means we have to push down more through the other limbs. Start to raise that leg. So it's like you're trying to bring the thigh parallel to the floor. Yes. And now we take the thigh and just bring it open where it stays parallel. And it's like the foot is still trying to reach towards the ceiling over the knee. Yes. And then we bring it back. And let's just come down to our child's pose for a moment before we do the last one. Okay, so now we're going to try that with leg extended, which is going to load the abdominals a lot more and the gluteals. So if you don't want to load it more, then you would just keep the knee bent. So we come back up. The left leg is going to go back behind where the toes are on the floor. Okay, kind of anchor in the pelvis where it's a little set. It's not draped forward. Then the leg starts to come up. Okay, so here the thigh, the knee, and the foot are all facing down. And then we just give it a little swing open. It doesn't go very far. Keep holding that. Notice if your weight is centered. You can tell because you could pick up the right hand easily without that weight all being in the hip. And then we come back. So let's try the other side. Right leg extends, toes are on the floor. We lift the pelvis so it's not too droopy downward. And then we lift the leg. Let's swing it open. So that's not very far. And then you could always take that left hand off the floor as a way to kind of feel the centered balance between that hand and knee. And then we let that go and let's come into child's pose. Nice work. One more breath. Okay, so let's do some of this laying down. So let's come onto our bellies. And we'll stack the hands so that the forehead can rest. And we have a little bit more of a neutral position with the spine. So it's always good to go back to neutral and just check in. So the breathing, so when you breathe, that lower back expands through the inhalation. So it's like the back panel of abdominals expands upward. And we can really feel that here because the belly in front is constricted by the floor. So let's take some breaths where we can really balance out this breath, this 360-degree expanse. So you expand through the sides, the front, the back, top and bottom. All right, so we're gonna bend the left knee. So your thigh is facing the floor the way it did when we were in table. The foot is stacked right over the knee. Press the pelvis down to lock in the pelvis and the lower back so that the work recruits right from the buttocks and gluteals. And you're gonna try to lift the knee and maybe a little bit of the thigh up and off the floor. Then once you're there, swing open where the thigh is still parallel. So you're abducting the hip. Yes. Let's roll back. Now let's do it with leg extended. So this is pure gluteals and hamstrings here. Swing open. Yes. Let's bring it back. Bend the knee again. So we're still lifted. Let's do it one more time. So we swing open and back. Extend the leg. Swing open and in. Let's release that. Okay, so let's do the other side. So feel first the residual of that leg and all the work and the blood flow that kind of flowed right into the back of the leg. And then we'll do the other side. So we bend the right knee. Okay, so all we're going to do here is push the pelvis down. So there's your anchor. and then you try to lift a knee and a little bit of the thigh if it lifts. Then you take that swing open. Yes, so we go across the gluteal. Let's come back. Now let's do it with straight leg, still a little bit of height. Swing open. We come in. We'll do that again, knee bent. Swing open. Yes, that looks awesome. Leg extended. Swing open. When we come back, let the leg go. Nice job. We take those neutralizing breaths, those balancing breaths in between. Okay, so we're just gonna up the ante just a little bit more. So, if you wanna add it. So we'll bend the left knee again. We'll lift the leg. Pelvis is anchored down. Now you're gonna do this whole rotation. So we swing open out to the side. Now we roll the inner thigh in and try to bring out the leg all the way up towards a 90-degree angle. And then it lowers. Yes. Okay. So once you're there, lift the foot, just like we did before, and then lower. So we try to lift and lower the foot. Okay, so depending on the mobility of the hip joint, it could be that the pelvis is lifted quite high in order to have this knee out to the side. So over time, we're looking to anchor a little bit more of a flatter front pelvis and then isolate the hip joint from here. Okay, now bring that foot down. And now we're going to think about trying to lift the knee, but the knee may not lift at all. And that's okay. Let it relax. So we're building connections. Try to lift the knee. Let it relax. Yes. 2 more. Excellent. Last one. Good. So again, building those connections, mapping towards the brain. Now that whole inner thigh that's on the floor, push down. So the inner thigh, whatever's touching the knee, the inner part of the foot, push, 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 drive. Keep holding. Now, when we let go, we're going to journey this leg all the way back to the start. So it's going to be from down where it has to now relax, pick up, and swing back to the start where it has this little bit of height. And then you let it go. Whew, right? Okay. So we're going to journey the other side. So we bend the knee. We lift the thigh a bit, anchor the pelvis down, swing the leg open to start, then roll in, internal rotation, and bring it to that 90-degree angle. Yes. Okay, so we hold here a couple breaths. And then we start by trying to lift the foot and lower. We lift and lower. Good. So we're promoting that internal rotation. One more. Excellent. So now this is most likely not going to lift at all, and that's okay. We're building connections. Try to lift the knee, just the knee. Let it relax. We'll do that again, trying to lift just the knee. Yep, let it relax. Now notice though, if your pelvis and back are lifting up with it to force it, or if you were to just isolate the one part of the hip, just trying to lift that one part of the knee that's weighted. Good, one more where we try to engage and then relax. Okay, you're gonna push the whole inner part of the leg down towards the floor. This is an isometric contraction. I love these because they don't really bring a lot of inflammation at all. Keep pressing down. And you always have unlimited potential of the push, right? So over time, you can always, amp this up more and more and more. Now we're gonna do the opposite where now it tries to lift and come back to the start of knee bent and then leg straight and down. Okay, so let's let the hips go left to right, side to side, give them a little swing. And then we come back to center. Let's just hold here for some balanced breaths, nice and big. Expanding and filling up that lower back nicely. And then exhale. And then we do that again. So you go from full to all the way empty. Excellent. And then we're going to press back to our child's pose. So we'll come up to table and we're going to take the left leg open out to the side. Okay. And then all we're going to do here is start to swing back towards the heel and forward. We're just going to go back and forth. Now, the next time you're back, hold there, and you can even come onto your forearms if you want. The trailing leg, can you roll it open and roll it in? So it's like you're trying to roll it open. This is all hip joint. Roll it in. Nice. One more. Try to roll open. Yes. And then in. Now let's come back up to table. And this leg that's extended, we're going to try and lift it. So it may not lift, but you're trying to take that foot off the floor, engage that whole side of the leg. Notice if you're centered. So if we swing our weight to the other side, it will definitely lift, but we want to make it harder. And then we let it go. Okay, let's come into child's pose. So you can always sweep those hips left to right, side to side. So you may have guessed happily that we're doing that on the other side. So we'll come back up to table, take the leg open out to the side. So this leg could be straight from the hip, but it could actually almost be a little further down. So it doesn't really matter. It's just more long out to the side. Then we're looking over the hip joint. So we go back and forth. So one more, and this one, you could stay back there if you like, or forward. So pick one. If you're back, the forearms can come down. And then we have to swivel this leg. So we're going to try and roll it open from the hip joint and in. Rolling it open. Yes. And in. Excellent. Good. Then we come back up if you're not already there. So center yourself quite well. So meaning sometimes we kind of kick to that other hip and put all of our weight on that other side. And we really want to see what this hip is capable of. Okay, so in this position, and this leg may not lift, you're going to try and take it off the floor. And it's almost like you're bringing it into a more active position. And you know that you're centered because you can take that other hand up and off. And then we let it go. And let's come into our child's pose. Great job. So hips go left to right. So scrub that out. And then we'll press back to our downward facing dog. So let's just do a couple things here. Let's take our heels in towards one another, toes are out. And then we'll do the opposite, toes in, heels out. And we're really hoping that this changes the hip direction as well, the hip joint direction. And then we'll take those feet up to the hands and we'll come right into a forward fold. Excellent. Let's come all the way up to standing. So we inhale big, and then we exhale those arms. Okay, so for now, let's separate the feet a little bit and let's let the hips go left to right. So we push into the side of the hip. Then we'll do those circles. We'll go the other direction. So the hips pressed out, back, out, and forward. One more. Okay, so we find center, we're kind of weighted over both hips, and it's just a little different sensation, a little different support. Good, so we'll take one more breath. Now we'll do some things with knees bent and legs extended and just see how it goes. So we'll pick up the right foot. And let's see if we can have kind of an L with the leg or that 90-degree angle. And then just like we did when we were in table, your foot is going to go back into hip extension and you just pause. So if I went too much, it would go lower back. So that's anchored up and hip joint is finding its anchor. Then from here, you're going to straighten the leg and you can push the toes down. Yes, let's go back to knee bent. Now we add where we go open out to the side. So thighs still facing forward. Yes. And then we start to straighten that leg, push the toes down. Excellent. Let's go knee bent. Let's do that all over again. So we go straight back, straighten the leg, bend the knee. We draw open. Yes, straighten the leg, press the toes down. Good. And then we come back to center and we let that go. All right. Shake that all off. Let's take some breaths in between. So we'll do the same thing on this side. So when you feel ready to balance, we pick up one foot. And so you have that L with the leg and you push back into hip extension. Now the hip joint angle doesn't change, but we straighten the leg. So it's like you're adding to the intensity of the hip extension. Good. We come back to knee bent. Good. We go open slightly. Yes. And then we straighten that leg, push the toes down. Good. We'll come back. We just do that one more time. So we push straight back. Then we straighten the leg back. Yes. So this is pure hip extension. We bend the knee. We draw open. Start to straighten that leg. Push the toes down. Bend the knee. And let's come back. Good. We'll let that go. Okay. So you might want to shake it out. You might want to push through the hips, whatever you want to do, just intuitively, feel that in between. And we'll breathe. Okay, so I'd like to get in rotation. Rotation is just as important. So we'll go back to the first side. And let's start with the knees up. Okay, so hip flexion, abduction, we're open. Yep, so from this place, think of the thigh spinning in and then pause there. So if you're spinning in and pelvis hikes to help, you could go lower. But the side of the leg is trying to open as you're rotating. So if you're close to the midline, you'll want to go open and rotate in at the same time. Let's come back. We'll do it one more time. So we go open, internally rotate, pause. Yep, keep pausing. So it's anchored into an internal rotation and then it's weighted. So think of when our leg was on the floor, when it was flat on the floor, that's sort of the position we're in, only it's more active now. And then we let it go. Okay? So we just give that leg a break for a moment before we switch. Okay, so we have the other side with rotation. We do 2 repetitions. So we come up. So this is hip flexion. Abduction, we're open. Then you try to roll in. Yes. Pause there. So it's that same position when we're on the floor, only this is way more active. It's against gravity. Good. Let's come back. We have one more. So we draw open. And then we roll it in where it's just the hip joint. So I can definitely merge my pelvis and have it come in further, but we're really trying to see what the hip joint's capable of and then let it go. So good. Okay, shake that all out. Okay. Dan, perform CPR. Yeah, I know that's the thing about drinking water too fast. I just, a little Massachusetts slipped out there, huh? Water. That's how I just said that. Jeez. Lisa, I know. Every now and then it slips out. Okay, so we're now gonna come down into little squats and just kind of like move stuff around now. So hip joint, knee joint, ankle joint. So you'll be a little wide and you're gonna come down and just kind of move from side to side. So now we're like trying to free up some things. Yep, and you can do this with feet flat if you like. And you could even like linger in one side if you want a little bit. And you could linger to the other side. Okay, we'll go side to side again. Now, we're gonna lift up from here, but different ways. So let's turn to one side where you have one foot flat, maybe the other, you're a little bit more on the heel. Or if you're both flat, you're just kind of turned the torso more to one side. And then you're gonna lift in this angle. So one foot is flat, one you're more on the ball of the foot. And then we come back down. And then we go to the other side. And we lift. Yes. We come back down. And we're just gonna do that side to side. So it's a little bit of different weight distribution, especially on those joints. One more each side. Excellent. And then just walk that off or shake it off. Don't you love having a mat? Because it's like, there's a lot of space to walk it off. Like it is. It's like a pretty good size personal space. So we'll take another breath. All right, so we're gonna do one more thing here. So I'll show it first and then I'll talk about modifications. So basically you're gonna be one leg down like we were, but the other one's extended. And we are going to eventually do the same in and out that we did. So if you liked being in table doing that, you can. And then we're going to go side to side. So this is like that internal or inner chain strength going side to side. Okay. So, and go. Okay. So depending on the knee, you may be a lot higher side to side. And it could be that you go from table, work one side like we did before, and then switch. Okay. So for now, let's go, yep, side to side and just feel the inner legs having to pull. So from the groin all the way to the bottom of the foot is like your anchor. That's what's pulling you. Yep, just side to side. So one foot, the heel will come up. So now that one, the heel. So the bent knee, the heel's going to come up. Yes. And that allows you to go down a little bit lower. And then when you switch, that heel comes up. Inner thigh. Oh, your quads. Okay. Now we settle into one side. And it's up to you if you want to come all the way down to your forearms. That's up to you. But either way, we're rolling the leg in and out just like we did in table. Yep. Excellent. We'll go the other side. Same thing. I love that you're facing one another like you're like, yeah, I know. Let's come back up and shake it off. Good job. Okay, so that's it for the difficult stuff. So now we'll be coming on to our backs and doing other things there. Okay, so we'll take some breaths. So a lot of this was, can the hip joint in your body be freed up in a way, rotation, abduction, adduction, and freeing itself up from the holds of the pelvis, holding it always together as one unit, because then that recruits way too much of either the knees or that lumbar spine. And this way we create a mobility and strength through these. Okay, so let's go on to our backs. With the knees bent. And we'll get some breath in and out of the nose. We're going to take the right ankle, hook it above the left knee. So that leg is still in this kind of 90-degree angle that we've been working on the whole class. Now, can the part of your ankle that's touching the thigh, so that bone of the ankle, can you just lift that part or try to lift that part up and off, keeping everything else the same? So if you're trying to lift it and you go into hip flexion where you go more towards the chest, you can do less of that and more of the angle and then let it rest. Perfect. Now let's do it where it's a little bit harder. Pick up that left foot. So now you're a little bit closer to the body and you can go up so it's a little bit more relaxed on the thigh. And then try to pick that ankle up and off again, that right ankle. Yes. Okay. Place it back down. Now we're going to do it again. The third time. Now straighten that left leg down the mat. And you're going to hold the angle so the foot is off the thigh and it tries to hold that same angle we started with. Yes. Let's come all the way back. Place that left foot down on the floor. All right. So we're going to do those three again, repeated on this same side. Just so it like secures into the brain a little bit more. So we pick up that right foot off the knee, rather, bring it back down. Now pick the left foot up. So now we have this angle more weighted. Pick that ankle up and off. If it comes off, yes, let it come back down. Third one, we pick it up and off. Now straighten that left leg down the mat. The ankle's off the knee. And then we let it go. Beautiful. Both feet flat on the floor. Back to neutral. Let's breathe. Other side. Left ankle hooks above that right knee. So here's passive. We make it a little bit more active. Just that ankle bone tries to raise slightly off. This side could be very different. Let it go back down. Okay, now we pick up the right foot. Now we angle in just a little bit more. And we try to pick up that ankle. Yes. Let it come back down. Third is you pick up the ankle. It's off the knee, and then straighten that leg where the left leg stays in place. Yes, come back, lower the foot. So it's just 3 aspects of active range of the hip. Let's do that again. So just the ankle tries to come off the knee. We let it come back down. We draw up a little bit with the legs. Try to pick that ankle up and off. Yeah, bring it back. Now we try to pick it up and off and then straighten that leg down the mat, holding that leg in its shape. Yes. And let's come back and let's release. So good. Knees go side to side. We'll do our 3 bridge poses, and then we get to relax into Shavasana. So first one, neutral. Feet are forward, knees are stacked, everything's in a line, and then we lift the hips. So here, when we were in table earlier, it was like we were pretending that we were pushing the foot towards the ceiling. The same as here, pelvis is anchored, and the feet are pressing so the work comes directly to the buttocks and not really beyond that if possible. And we come on down. Now let's do external rotation. So soles of the feet come together, knees wide. And we press up. Good. So hopefully you're feeling how the hip joint has a little bit of a roll open. So then the buttocks have this immediate access to lift. Let's come on down. Let's do the internal rotation. So feet wide, knees come in towards one another. And then we press up. So here, does the leg bone and hip joint have freedom from the pelvis to lift higher? So if that's a little sticky, it's going to be hard for the pelvis to feel like it can kind of release away from the ball of the joint. And then we come back down. Beautiful. Let's extend those legs long. Let's let the legs roll in and out. And then we find a space of calm. Let's roll the head left to right. And the head comes back to center. Let's take a breath. So because hips store a lot of emotion and energy, let's do that double breath. So double through the nose and then all the way out. And then here we are getting to absorb the practice there's integration, there's recovery. So flow the breath in a way that feels anchored